Elsa's exclamation that she would be sailing to the dukedom of Weselton came as a surprise to everyone in the library, aside from Commander Reynolds, her most trusted royal guard. "Hold that thought, Queen Elsa. You want us to go to Weselton with you?" Hans asked. Elsa then began to explain her plan. "I will begin my duties as Queen of Arendelle and officially introduce myself to the surrounding kingdoms and dukedoms to show my support and respect. Or at least that will be the excuse we use to sail to Weselton." Elsa gestured to Commander Reynolds. "The commander has already found a small ship that would be more than willing to take us and be discreet about our cargo as well." "Cargo?" Kristoff asked as he looked around the table. That's when Hans spoke up. "She means me." Everyone was confused by Hans' statement, everyone aside from Elsa. "That's correct," she replied. "The Duke can't know that you're with us, otherwise he would get suspicious. I'm afraid we might not make it back out of the port if he discovered that we were working together." Elsa continued to explain her plan. "Anna, Kristoff, and myself will head to the dukedom on official business. Us along with my royal guard, of course." Elsa nodded toward Commander Reynolds and the two officers. "As for you, Hans, when we port, you will hide in the ship until the deck is clear and then make your way to an inn where you can lay low." Hans felt forced to ask, "Lay low? What do you want me to do while I'm there?" "I was getting to that, Hans," Elsa replied. "The day after you've had a chance to settle in, you will ask around about the exact location of the ship captain's home. You're going to need to be discreet about it, though." "Oh, he can be discreet," Anna interjected. Hans tried to brush off the insult as he felt he still deserved it, and continued to ask questions about the plan. "What about the ship? How can we be sure our captain will actually keep my presence hidden from the Duke's guards? I've known the sailor for my entire life. It wouldn't be the first time that he's helped out the kingdom, and it likely won't be the last. Plus, he sails on a small ship, so there's less crew to worry about," Commander Reynolds answered with confidence in his voice. The rest of that night was spent going over the exact details of their plan as they looked at the map and ensured that their positions were clear. That week, they all prepared for the voyage, and when it came time to smuggle Hans on board the small ship that would take them from Arendelle to Weselton, Hans was surprised that the guard had actually arranged for him to be carried on with the food. Hans couldn't help but think about the time he stowed away on Elsa's ship to sneak into Arendelle. Sometimes life won't let you escape the past, huh? He thought to himself as he waited for the sound of the horn signifying the ship's departure from port. And when that sound came, he wasted no time before he started using his legs to force the front end of the crate open. He was surprised to see that he hadn't been placed in the food storage like he expected, but instead was given a small cabin of his own. Hans looked around as he stretched his legs. "There's even a bed," he thought to himself. The seas were rough and choppy at the start of their brief voyage, and Hans decided to remain in his cabin for the first couple hours as his body acclimated to the motion of the ship swaying back and forth. And once again, he found himself reading by candlelight only to be disturbed by a sound from the other side of the door. This time, though, instead of the sound of keys forcing their way in, Hans was surprised when he heard a quick knock at the door. "You can come in," he called out from the desk. The door to his cabin swung open, and he was surprised to see Anna on the other side. Hans stood from his seat. "Princess Anna, I'm sorry. I thought you were the commander." "It's actually Queen Anna now," she responded. "It was a whole thing. Elsa handed the throne down to me. But I guess we're all still getting used to everything. That's not the point, though. That's not why I came here." Hans gestured for Anna to come in and take a seat. "If you don't mind me asking, Queen Anna, why are you here?" "I'm fine just standing, thank you," Anna replied. "I'm here because I don't trust you." Hans had expected that Anna would be unhappy with his presence on the ship. Anna continued to speak. "I don't know why my sister brought you with us, but I don't believe that you are truly with us for a second. You are only here for yourself, and the second you get the chance in Weselton, you're going to run." Hans was taken aback by the accusation, and he began to defend himself. "No, Anna, I've given my word to Queen Elsa that I would help her. You may not believe this, but I am truly sorry for what I've done, and for the trouble that I've caused you and your sister. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted to be heard so badly, and the only way I could earn my father's approval was to what?" Anna cut him off. "To take over our kingdom? There are no excuses. And I make no excuses, Queen Anna. What I did to you was truly terrible, and I'm sorry, Hans said solemnly. Anna sighed as she thought to herself. She took a moment before responding. Look, Hans, I hear you, and I hear your apology. I still can't say that I trust you, but I have made my peace. You're not forgiven for what you've done, but I will allow you to prove yourself. Hans lowered his head in a bow. Thank you, Queen Anna. Anna turned to walk out of the room. Just before leaving, she called back to Hans. Oh yeah, Olaf has been telling some pretty terrible jokes lately. Please stop teaching them to him. Hey, it's not a crime to like puns, Hans responded as Anna left the room, closing the door behind her. Though he thought that conversation went well, Hans continued to carry the guilt of the time that he almost killed Elsa. The day went on, and Hans remained in his cabin for a while, and by the time he finally made his way to the top of the deck, it was already nightfall. They must all be sleeping, he thought to himself as he made his way toward the bow of the ship. He looked out into the darkness, hardly able to see more than a few feet in front of him. The ocean was more still than Hans had ever felt it in the few times he'd been on a ship. He closed his eyes as he listened to the sound of the wooden ship cutting through the water, and it wasn't long before he found a crate to sit on near a lantern and began reading the book that he had brought. A few hours passed, and in that time the waves began to rise, and the water seemed less smooth, but still, Hans found himself enjoying the peace and quiet on the deck of the ship that night. However, as he continued reading, he was interrupted by a voice that called to him from behind. I'm told that you're always reading, Elsa said as she approached Hans. Hans closed his book and stood from the crate to greet Elsa. That's true. I wasn't always like this, but my brother Lars always tried to impart the power of knowledge to me. And in recent times, more than ever, I find myself wondering where he's run off to. From the little I know of Lars, I'm sure he's taking care of himself and probably others as well, Elsa replied. He seems to have had a good influence on you. Hans nodded. I've been meaning to talk to you about our plans for Weselton, Elsa began. I won't have a lot of time to wander about the town, so I need you to act as quickly as you can to find out where Captain Arthur lives. Hans walked over to the edge of the ship and looked out toward the horizon, now partially lit by the oncoming sunrise. I have to admit, I'm a bit nervous. The Duke has never been fond of me, and if I'm captured, I surely won't be escaping punishment this time, Hans said as he chuckled nervously. Escaped punishment? Elsa asked. No, that's not what I meant to imply, Queen Elsa. Hans explained. It's just that in your care as your prisoner, I've received more kindness than I've had in my entire life. Whether it be at the hands of my siblings or my father, I was always treated like dirt. And at least your guards, though they treat me strictly, they treat me like a human. And for that, I am grateful. Elsa was thrown off by this confession. You're grateful? I'm not grateful to be imprisoned, but I'm grateful for your kindness as I do not deserve it, Hans responded. Elsa had a puzzled look on her face, but eventually responded, simply saying, Just don't mistake my kindness for weakness. Elsa turned from Hans and made her way back to her cabin below deck. Hans then spent the rest of the morning near the edge of the ship and watched the sun as it began to rise. He looked off into the distance for a little more than an hour before he noticed a small spot on the horizon. Weselton, he thought to himself. Over the next hour, everyone slowly began to make their way to the top of the deck, and it wasn't long before everyone was anticipating the first part of their journey to be over. All eyes pointed toward the bow of the ship and to the land beyond as one of the sailors called out from the ship's crow's nest. Port in sight! The dukedom of Weselton! Everyone get ready and remember the plan, Elsa called out to Anna, Hans, and Kristoff. I've got a bad feeling about this, Hans thought to himself as he kept his eyes locked on the port of Weselton. He prepared his mind to once again sneak into a city where he was unwanted.